Welcome back to the Collective Shift channel. Today, we'll be discussing a recent post by our senior research analyst, Nick, on the state of the metaverse as we get into 2023. It's definitely been a heavily funded area in 2021 and 2022 in the blockchain space, and we really want to, get this report out to our members and now discuss it here with our YouTube viewers and those listening on the podcast. So yes, this post was published a couple of weeks ago for our Collective Shift members. And it's an example of the types of posts that we are, pushing out every week for our members to help them save time and make informed investment decisions. Nick, I'll hand it over to you to take things away.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, this one was a really interesting one because Metaverse was, I think, one of the biggest buzzwords of 2021, especially with like Meta and Facebook rebranding to Meta. So it was really important to sort of keep track of this narrative, especially with other narratives coming into the forefront, and a lot of people questioning whether this is still like a relevant thing in the market, which in my opinion, is really still heavily invested, a lot of news coming out. And I think all of this is just going to continue to keep being built on in the coming years. So really keen to get stuck into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect time to take scope of where things are at. And yeah, I think the most obvious place to start, Nick, Metaverse is like very broad term. I think a lot of people have different interpretations. So I'm interested to, after all your researching, what's sort of the general definition that you sort of apply to the Metaverse?
So the definition I apply is something that's related to like a really scaled and dynamic sort of network of interconnected, virtual worlds. So you can think of this as real focus on 3D, a focus on sort of everyone being able to experience it together at once by a really unlimited amount of users. So at the moment, this may sound like what we have at the moment with some platforms like Roblox or Minecraft, but there's serious limits on how many people can actually play these games at once. And often if you go to play in Minecraft, you may be able to only play with like 50 or whatever, 100 players before your server gets split up into 1,000 different ones. So the Metaverse kind of looks at this idea that instead of having thousands of these different virtual worlds that you may be able to experience, you sort of experience them all together in the one. So it's sort of persistent and it's got a real focus on being integrated and really interconnected with a wide range of like goods and services, and also like NFTs.
Yeah, sure. Very well said. I think, there's probably, just to add my take on there, I think there's been versions of it, to your point, over the past decades. I think Second Life was probably a real, early example of some sort of metaverse, this virtual experience. But yeah, I think your point of, being in real time with others is a big one. And then obviously that idea of user identity or sovereignty over your data and identity is sort of then where you bring the blockchain aspect into it. But yeah, it's a very polluted sort of term now. So I'm glad we kicked things off there with the definition. But yeah, moving on from that, I suppose in terms of the significance of the metaverse, we hear it said so often, just it's almost lost all its meaning. But just a very simple question, like why does the metaverse matter?
It's kind of, I think it's a big deal. The way I think about it is it can be sort of seen as a land grab in terms of influence over this metaverse,
Sure.
Just because of the sheer market opportunity that is sort of being appeared. We can look at estimates ranging from, Bloomberg to JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Deloitte, McKinsey. They're all sort of differing in their actual number because it's actually quite hard to quantify exactly what is like the metaverse and like what is this market opportunity because it's so varied in its interpretation. But there's, ranges anywhere from like the 1 trillions by 2024 to like the, tens of trillions, by 7 to 10 years. So it's hard to actually pin down one number, but it's clear that there is a big scope for this, which is why I think it's a big opportunity and why it's so important to track and monitor, because as we're seeing examples like, Roblox and Minecraft, as we've mentioned, Facebook's, Horizon World, we're going to see, and we've already seen sort of crypto native approaches to this, saying that, we don't want Web2 companies to control the metaverse and control these this new platform that may be appearing, and we want these like decentralized alternatives where we have more control over like data, over your stuff that you buy. Classic example is like getting kicked off your land if you're heavily, invested and got a lot of time sunk into some of these Web 2 ones. Whereas it's kind of against the ethos, I think, for these decentralized alternatives, that they'll be able to say, hey, you can't just get kicked off this, land, or, taking your items revoked in this sort of new world.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, some heavy sort of estimates there from these sort of consulting companies and different financial institutions where, that almost is a strong indicator that, hey, there is something here, or at least many thousands of people think there's something here. And then, about connecting like with others. I think that's a big opportunity to just deepen the emotional sort of connection and the way that I guess we can operate as society. So it's like, very vast implications, as you sort of touched on.
Because it's, you're even seeing reports about, I guess, kids that are growing up these days, that they're actually demanding like Robux instead of like actual dollars.
Right.
And these kids that are like growing up in this native internet, that, so it's sort of they're going to be able to increase their spending power as they become adults. And it's sort of this interesting phenomenon where you're going to be sort of spending a lot of your more time and a lot of your money inside these, virtual platforms, which is where we've seen, people like Nike and Adidas really start to target like in-item games and all that sort of thing, because the market opportunity for that is just so massive to, purchase things that you can take around with you on the internet that can jump into different games and things like that.
Yeah, understood. No, I've definitely spoken to a few people, even this past few months, of their kids sort of, either taking their credit card or at least asking them to buy some certain, online virtual goods. So it's all heading that way for sure. But to bring it back to like 2023, starting off, we're in end of February now. What's sort of like your just take on the state of play? I know that was sort of the next thing you talked about in your report.
Yeah, so I think we can look at the negative first. The negative is that I think with the downturn of like technology stocks, and I guess what happens when there's overinvestment in sort of this new shiny narrative that happens in the last couple of years, it sort of combines with, poor economic outlook, that I think a lot of these companies have had to like make a lot of cuts. I know Microsoft fired, I think, 10,000 people from the Metaverse division. Meta is similar, and even big Chinese companies like Tencent, they've sort of scrapped their VR hardware due to like a sobering economic outlook.
Right.
So we're seeing some cuts in those regards. But a major theme I saw in the positive was these sort of alliances come together, from the Open Metaverse Alliance, which was formed in November 2022, which was these Web3 companies and, these crypto native voices. And then the Metaverse Standards Forum, which happens in June 2022, with, I think, 33 of the biggest tech companies looking into the metaverse. So on this front, we're seeing, a lot of serious collaboration and investment from these companies, especially if we look from like how much is actually being spent. I think a good example here was even companies like Lego, were forming partnerships with Epic Games, to build like a kid-friendly metaverse. There's much more of these examples of just sheer investment into the space, even from government. Like I know people like Japan and even like South Korea. South Korea is building like this sort of virtual replica of the capital city.
Right.
So it's really interesting that you're seeing this push for, these metaverse, these virtual worlds. And I sort of dive into the cryptocurrency alternatives there in a sort of Airtable that I'm kind of calling my sort of database for this sort of thing.
Nick, I know in previous sort of videos that we did on the gaming report, for example, you mentioned the likes of Sandbox and Decentraland. And then obviously in this video so far, you talked about Lego or even just Roblox or Minecraft. I imagine what you found in these reports is just a wide sort of landscape of different types of metaverses, and I suppose the way they're sort of structured. Could you maybe just talk a bit about how you at least sort of conceptualize this whole ecosystem of different metaverses?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get tied up into definitions too, even when you're talking about breaking them up into centralized versus decentralized, because I think we discuss a lot that decentralized is like a real spectrum. It's kind of that end state a lot of these platforms want to get to, but they're currently still centralized. So you can kind of break them up into like Web 2 native metaverses versus Web 3 native metaverses. So as you said, your Web 2 metaverses are your likes of like Roblox and Minecraft, which are really gatekept by these big companies, these big tech companies, whereas these Web 3 alternatives like Decentraland and Sandbox aim to, I guess, provide users with more access over the data, but also greater access over the like in-game items and the in-game currency that's fueling that. I've got an example here as well. Things like Illuvium are working at creating their own lands and sort of experiences with their assets being able to be used across their different games. And things like even Axie Infinity that are presenting their land that's coming up. We can also see other models like Nifty Island who are not pursuing like a scarce lands model, which is a really interesting one that I'm keen to look at, which is completely different to the rest of these other metaverses out there in the crypto ecosystem. So they're really looking at, making it easy for anybody to play it and sort of ignoring this sort of land scarce idea that a lot of these other ones are pursuing.
Yeah, fascinating. It'll be interesting to see, which sort of metaverses tend to win out over the decades ahead, or if it is that sort of a theme, or whether it is just a bit more random. But yeah, thanks for that. And then, I know you alluded to some challenges earlier with respect to, the economic sort of downturn leading to job losses in, tech companies in particular. But I'm sure you probably came across some other challenges, with the metaverse category overall. Could you maybe just talk through, 2 or 3 of those challenges that you saw?
Yeah, so I think one main one is the technology challenge. That is just a sheer issue in terms of like bandwidth, computing, graphics, infrastructure, all these things that need to come together to present that definition I talked about earlier about being persistent and everyone being able to experience it at once. At the moment, the technology is just not there. I know like one of the vice presidents from Intel was saying how there should be like 1,000x improvement in like compute to deliver this. So it's still a massive technological challenge, as well as like other things like you need to have greater immersion. And so like wearable technology is really important. Other challenges are like the monopolization challenges. Apple's been famous for having a 30% tax and fee on its app store, and you can really and they really strangle what can happen in their ecosystem. There's a good quote here by Tim Sweeney, who is the CEO of Epic Games, who's he was a massive metaverse bull. He sort of says that until maybe the law overcomes this or opens up the market to more competition, that Apple sort of has effectively outlawed the metaverse. So a lot more of these technical challenges and legal, monopolization challenges to really open up these platforms for everyone to use, because they won't be able to experience by people if games that are launching on there in their metaverse, have to pay Apple like 1/3 of their revenue just for the privilege of being there.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a talking point. That's an issue that's come up, over the years with respect to Apple and their, arguably their monopoly when it comes to app stores or apps even trying to go on the app store and whatnot. And yeah, here we are, and it's affecting, the metaverse uptake as well. Like scaling blockchains is, probably another one we talked about last week with respect to gaming. More or less just the same issue of, the blockchain is still, experimental at the end of the day. So I would say risks would apply also for when you're considering investing in gaming. But I think also like a really good way to end it, Nick, I saw you wrapped up your report with sort of a nice, sort of conclusion talking about time horizons. Can you maybe just define what does time horizon even mean? And then just explain how you sort of wrapped it up here with respect to metaverses.
Yeah, so I guess the way I looked at this is your time horizon is the time you put, I guess, on when you want to get in and out of things, or like your viewpoint whether it's going to be something for the next year or whether you're looking at it, for the next 10 years. So in the case of Metaverse, that was a main takeaway, is that it's sort of a year to decade long time horizon that you really should pay attention to and acknowledge, because it is very risky, especially with some unproven technology with serious risks like this. So it's something you really should be prepared of, to look at it in that context of a decade-long thing. Whereas, it's not going to be a month to a year sort of narrative. So important to understand that, I think, before you go deeper into the metaverse, which we'll explore more in part 2 in an upcoming report.
Yeah, very well said. Could you maybe just end with a bit of a tease? What's coming up in part 2, Nick?
So part 2 is going to look at, similar like the gaming report, 5 different ways you can get exposure to this metaverse trend if it's something that you are really interested in. So I'll go through crypto native ways and then also explore some non-crypto ways, who are the real plumbing of the metaverse.
No, exciting stuff. Looking forward to reading it on the Collective Shift platform, and then also breaking it down at a later stage in a recording session just like this. But yes, as I did say earlier, this post, part 1 of the Metaverse State of Play, was recently published on the Collective Shift platform and is an example of the type of content that we produce to help our valued members save time and make informed decisions. If you are wanting to level up your crypto game, book in a free strategy call over at our website at collectiveshift.io. That's collectiveshift.io. You can book in a free strategy call with our CEO, Ben, and you can fill up his calendar, bugging him with all sorts of questions related to your crypto strategy. But until then, thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you next time.